Good morning. This is the last lecture for our course, Faith Development for Children, and how time flies. No? Tapos na. Tapos na agad. So we come to the end of our course. And today I'll be talking about faith development. So we began with how children are treated in with our faith with the new in the Old Testament, New Testament, and the church. That's the first day of lecture, and then we discussed on developmental theories. And then last week we deepened that understanding of developmental theories, and the reason for that is again the objective of this class is for us to understand in which stage, using psychology, in which stage our children is in, and how we can actually um, teach them our faith based on the stage that they are in, using the different theories that we have in psychology. So knowing the children from scripture, shifting it to psychology. Now we go to the mix of both developmental stages that we have learned, developmental theories that we've learned, together with our faith. Now, how does our faith now develop side by side with these different developmental theories? Now, I have two theories of faith development that I'll be presenting to you today. For this video, we will be studying Fowler's theory of faith development. Then later, I will be discussing the next one, another theory of faith development. Okay. So again, our main purpose is for us to be efficient, enabled for us to be effective in the way we catechize. No? To also look at how we are um, teaching them and how we should interact with them as catechists. As I told you in in the second video, it is pretty important. It is really important that we get to catechize our youth today, and and most of the time, how we do it is really by our witnessing and action. But to be more effective is to really learn um, the psychology of it. It will really help us in how we develop our modules, our lesson plans when we catechize. Okay, so our catechesis after this evangelion program should improve a lot. No? Knowing now that we know how to develop a module, um, and now also uh, factoring in um, the different stages that the child may be, So, um, so this is really a partnership from your other class, no? Together with in this time, no. So if you are doing lesson plans or catechetical programs um, with Miss Lee and with me, is a way for you to improve that, no, by factoring in um, the different developmental theories, and with this and today the exact faith development of children. So let's begin with a quote from James Fowler, and he said, "Faith is an orientation of the total person, giving purpose and goal to one's hopes and strivings, thoughts, and actions." Let me repeat that again. Faith is an orientation of the total person, giving purpose and goal to one's hope and striving, thoughts, and action. Okay, so faith gives us purpose on what we do. That is what James Fowler is telling us. And not just what to do, what we think, what our actions will be, what our hopes, what our dreams should be. It is basically giving us that purpose. So that is what faith does for us, according to Dr. James Fowler. So let's try to know him. So James Fowler is a graduate of Duke University, that is in the United States. Um, he is from the Drew Theological Seminary. He graduated with a PhD in Harvard University with Religion and Society, with focus in ethics and sociology of religion. Um, he is a part, or he studied his postgraduate study is with the Center of Moral Development at Harvard School of Education. So, bigatin tong ating doctor, si James Fowler. So, he has been teaching in numerous places, uh, as you can read here in his teaching career. Uh, so, from 1994 to 2005, he's the director of the Center of Ethics at Emory. And he developed this, the stages of faith, the psychology of human development, and the quest for meaning. And it is on its 38th printing. Well, he is not Catholic, but he is Christian. He is a minister at the United Methodist Church. He is married with 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. So, again, he's best known for the book Stages of Faith, the Psychology of Development, and the Quest for Meaning. He has written or edited 10 other books and more than 60 articles, has won several awards, for his contribution with psychiatry, religion, and psychology. And again, he's currently a minister in the United Methodist Church. So prior to this, I tried to research on a theory made by a Catholic. Maybe you guys can write a book or research on it, especially if you're a psychiatrist. So with James Fowler, he would be the most famous. He's the first, or the pioneer with regards to writing about faith development. So that is why we are studying him. So anyway, he is Christian, being part of the United Methodist Church. Okay, so James Fowler described the development of faith, and he believed that faith, or the spiritual dimension, is a force that gives meaning to a person's life. Like I told you earlier, it's the one that gives purpose to life. He used the term faith as a form of knowing, a way of being in relation to an ultimate environment. So, to Fowler, faith is a relational phenomenon. It's an active made of being in relation to and to another or others, in which we invest commitment, belief, love, risk, and hope. You just okay. I'm just fixing my camera. Sorry for that. Okay, so James Fowler's faith development. It is with this imaging that Fowler research and observations identified what he calls reasonable, predictable developmental turning points in the ways faith imagines and in the ways faith's images interplay with the communal modes of expression. So it is with this reasonable, predictable, uh, reasonable, predictable developmental turning points, wherein this faith development, the theory of faith development, is where James Fowler founded this theory. So here are the seven stages of faith development. The first is primal, intuitive projective, mythic literal, synthetic conventional, individuative reflective, conjunctive, and lastly universalizing. Okay, so here's another one of that. So this slide provides for us a brief description of each of the stage. No? So for zero, primal or undifferentiated, early learning of the safety of the environment, like warm, safe, and secure versus hurt, neglect, and abuse. It's the seeds of faith or spirituality. The need for concrete symbols and stories for intuitive projective. Strong beliefs in the justice, reciprocity of the universe. Deities are almost always anthropomorphic at stage 2. Conformity to a personal myth, identity and set of values, synthetic, conventional, that's the third stage. Um, Taking up personal responsibility for beliefs, values, systems of meaning, commitments. And that's individuative, reflective, acknowledgement of paradoxes of experiences, faith, subjective to critical reflection. And lastly is universalizing, altruistically creating of zones and liberation. So it's the 6 stages of development, but we have seven stages because the primal or undifferentiated stage is actually not included in the six kasi though it's very important, as we see, it's a seed of faith and spirituality. It is you can't really teach the faith at this level. Means they're still infants. But how di ba, when we learn in the developmental theory that for infants, sensory motor sila. So they develop no they develop cognitively using sensory motor, and that's using their senses. No? At the same time, in this case of faith development, it's really hard to teach the faith if it doesn't feel loved, warm, safe, or hurt or neglected at this early stage of life. Now, I have this student when I was teaching in Don Bosco in Laguna. We had this topic of God as Father, God as Father, and right from the beginning, this boy was already very quiet, and it surprised me because he is the least of the quiet boys in my class. No? So I was already wondering what's happening in his head. No? And after I gave the lecture, I asked them to write down a reflection on how they see God as Father. So all of them wrote their reflection and then they passed it. And then before leaving, I still had 10 minutes. I asked some of them to tell us or share what they have written. No? Um, so nobody was using their hand, and I'm not sure why, but I think maybe they think it's a very sensitive issue, very personal for them. Um, so I just called. So I just called someone, and I called that boy that I saw very silent. And when he stood up, he told me the story. He started his story, saying that God is not his father. He said that God is not my father. And I asked him, why? Why did you say that? He said, it is impossible for God to be a father. No? And I was already thinking, is he trying to be philosophical, or is he trying to challenge me with this question, or is he really confused? Because I was confused because he was a fun-loving, very noisy boy, fun-loving, and normally he would not stop talking in my class. But for the first time, he started talking like this, very serious with me. He said that doesn't believe that God can be a father. Um, so I told him to elaborate and try to explain why he said this, and then he started crying. And you know what? No, he said that his father left their family when he was around 6 years old, and he could not get over that. He said that how can God be a father if most fathers do not really care for their family? He said most, but of course, it's only with his own experience. So going back to primal or undifferentiated uh, stage of the life of the children with regards to their faith development, so important because how we relate to children actually affects them in the future, especially this boy that I am now describing, that I have just told the story with you. Okay, so let's go and see stage one. No? Um, stage one or stage one or zero actually, diba? 6 lang meron tayo. Infancy and undifferentiated faith. No? It's the pre-stage, so hindi pa talaga siya stage, no? Sorry for this slide. No? Um, so undifferentiated faith are the seeds of trust, courage, hope, and love. So how much trust, courage, hope, and love we give to the infant is actually the seeds of faith that we are giving. Because whatever, remember that with our faith, we are teaching that God is love. And so does, if he does not feel love, then he does not actually experience God in the beginnings of his life. No? So if we do not treat him correctly, then um, thus the seeds of difference instead of the seeds of faith, will come. No? So it's important to really nourish these seeds of faith that we can give at this very young stage of the children's faith development. So quality of mutuality between caregivers and infants is really what's important in this. Rudimentary awareness of self, others prior to language skills is very important. Like my son, I since I'm studying this, no, I really made an effort, no, to make him feel love. No, I talk to him, I play with him. I am already starting to give him the one hug a day because I read somewhere that when you raise up your children by giving them hugs, no, until the time that they will release the hug, it's actually very good for them that they will really feel the care and love that you have. And usually, people that are hugged, they are more connected to others. No, they are not shy to interact. No, so that's what I'm doing right now. So that rudimentary awareness of selves and others really happens in this time. And then again, it's foundational to further faith development. So if we screw this up, if we do not, if this child has unpleasant infancy stage, then it will lead to problems in the future. So, if you have any student probably in mind that shows this, no, if you are catechizing a group of children, then try to imagine, the most unruly of that, no, and try to talk to him or her and try to see, and definitely you would see that there was something between his relationship when he was younger, or is currently living in a situation where the environment will not provide seeds of trust, courage, hope, and love. No? So, yeah. So please do that exercise. Try to think of a person that we are teaching and see if this is something that was a problem to that person. No? Or if it's a problem, try to look at the environment. Try to imagine the environment he had when he was at this stage. Okay, so now let's go to mythic literal faith. So it's a concrete operational thinking at this time. So stable categories of space, time, and causality make the child's construction of experience much less dependent on feelings and fantasy. So at this time now, the experience that we're continuing to give that to children actually helps with teaching the faith. And again, in this stage, no, is more on the concrete operational thinking, no longer just sensory motor or by instinct. No? So children by this time, no, can actually make construction of experiences that is not dependent on feeling and fantasy. So in this stage, there's an ability to recognize others' perspectives. The child now can be able to see that sometimes his perspective is different from his playmate or people around him or her. He will be able to recognize right and wrong, good and evil. So faith becomes a matter of reliance on the stories, rules, and implicit values of the family's community and meaning. So by this time, really what we tell them would have an impact about their faith. No? So narrative and story become important. So if you want to teach someone who is at this stage, really it's about stories that would enrich the faith of those at this stage. So faith involves following the stories, practices, and beliefs of one's community and tradition. So when I say story, hindi lang siya yung story that we read in the Bible, but really stories about life, stories that you can share, or you encourage them to share, or if they can share in a group, then they can get inputs from others. So narrative and story becomes very important at the mythic literal faith. So you can see this at the first grade to the early teens. So you see the big difference of the undifferentiated stage, no? Ang laki, no? That's from infancy until before grade 1, no? So that's why whatever happens with them from 0 to 5 will really affect them at the first stage, which is the mythic literal, no? Um, so, for example, membership is important to their identity by this time, no? But if in stage 0 they had no such environment, no, what they do is they do not know how to interact, no, or react. Some of them, kaya minsan yung mga malilikot ng sobra, because they do not know, no, they do not understand the formalities when you are teaching them, no? Because all they got is an environment, no, wherein there is no love. And in this case, when they go to your oratory or your class, or Sunday school, they will feel free to play. They will also feel love kasi dun sa bahay nila wala. No? So membership is important to the identity of a person. So can we change that? Of course, yes, because again, we are providing or giving them a new experience. No, remember, sisters, brothers, um, in psychology, or in any science, no, we can always change the experience by giving another or a better experience. No, for example, if you, if, for example, you ate in a Jollibee, and then what the experience is that yung burger mo, bumili ka ng cheeseburger, and then what you find out is may cheese pero walang burger. So, you were only eating cheese, and then of course you get frustrated, and then you'll say you'll not eat in any fast food anymore. No? Sabihin mo. But, of course, that can change if he goes to another Jollibee in the future and then ate a cheeseburger, now with burger and cheese, and then given fries, and then may masahe pa. So, what happens? So, you change the experience, thus he will love Jollibee na. Diba? So, in each stages, no, especially from this, no, na pa siya, na papalitan pa yung mga experiences. So, that is why, or the experience can actually be changed, and thus giving a new perspective, no? So even in adults, no? Like, take for example, I have two extreme examples, no? Those who are drunk, when they are drunk, they go home, they would say, I will not drink anymore, I will not drink anymore, my head is like cracking, my head is cracking. And that's their current experience, no? But when they try it again, he will say, I don't want to drink. Then he will try one, then start drinking more. Then he will still like it, no? Extreme, no? So the experience can change. So in the mythic literal, we rely on stories, values, rules of authority. No? So the importance of telling the story of that's why um, children Bibles or books, no, are stories, no. My little boy was given a gift. Of course, he cannot use it yet, no. It's a children's Bible, and in this Bible, um, he can see the different stories inside. So, of course, when you talk about Moses, it tells a story of the parting of the sea. When you talk about David, it's a story about David and Goliath, right? So, with faith, no, you can. It's really relying on the story. So, stories explain how the world works, no, because the stories, you can talk about values, no, after telling a story. Now, that's why in this stage, first grade to early teen, you will see this is where our children are. No, those we are catechizing in the parishes are in this stage. So, uh, telling stories or ability to listen to the stories and then giving values to them is the best way to teach our faith at this time. So, um, and this time also, all stories can be taken as literal and factual. So, but let them be, because in the end, there will be a stage wherein they would find out that it's different. Yes? Or when they even grow up in your age, that they can now theologically answer questions. Maybe that could change. That the of stories being taken as literal and factual. I'll take for example, parting of the sea. Let them take it, no. The only problem is there's social media, and there was this time, no, I told the story of the parting of the sea, and one of my students told me, sir, I watched in National Geographic. This is what happened. There is this part in near Egypt, no, wherein there is the current is both different, no, and then thus they say maybe at the time of Moses, there were two typhoons on both sides that pulled the water. Kasi the current daw is here, parang magkasalubong ng current, dun sila dumaan. And because ganun nga yung mga waves doon, the land is also parang created a trench. No? So, very scientific, no? The question of this boy, no? Yun lang, no? Wala na yung fantasy behind, unlike us, no? We were really amazed. Wow, Moses parted the sea. Ooh, ang galing, no? Now, because of social media, they can easily read these stories uh, a different kind, and they will start asking. And if you don't have the patience, then the more that they will be secretive, no? Because when you say, ano ba yan? Why are you reading that? So if we do that, we're not really open in helping them understand that not everything they read in social media is correct. Then they will end up believing everything in social media. No? Okay, so authority figures overrides personal perspective. So whatever their perspective is, an authority or someone they look up to can actually change that. No? So in that case of my story, I told you about the National Geographic. I explained to him about the parting of the sea. I told him that it's a yes or no. Yes, because scientifically you told me that, but if you would go back to that movie, then or that story, clearly the time that can happen, that there's two typhoons in an exact time, um, is still a miracle, no? And will not always happen. So, thus the story, it can still be true, and is true, that they were saved. Of course, when you started reading scriptures, we would understand and learn that the Torah was written when they were in exile and they were hoping that they will be saved. So um, they can actually exaggerate, the story. So yun. When you start studying theology and started reading the Bible and trying to learn the context, all of those fantasies when you were young will change. Will change, and but at the same time, it will deepen our faith. That when we try to really understand and try to study our faith that way. Okay, so let's go to stage three. So that was stage two. Then stage three is synthetic conventional faith. So from the age of about 12 and lasting into adulthood, synthetic conventional faith is characterized by conformity to authority and the development of a personal identity centered around religious beliefs. Any contradictions between reality and one's belief are often ignored at this stage due to the fear of threat from inconsistencies. So at this time, nobody really challenges uh, authority or what other people may know. No? What's the reason for this, no? Sir PJ? Again, it is again from 12 lasting into adulthood. So that means that they are studying, some of them are studying. You are in the higher years, no? At the same time, going into adulthood. At this stage, no, there is someone higher than you. I mean, when you are in high school, there are teachers that demands respect from you, that you have to conform to them, to those in authority, like a principal or assistant principal or the teacher or your parents. No? So at this time, you are also trying to ignore any contradictions between reality and your belief, because you don't want to really enter into an argument, especially with people in authority. And then in adulthood, it's the same. So, like if you started working at this time, early adulthood, then the same thing. You want to conform in order for you to do well in your job. That you're in the good side of your boss. So um, at this time, that is what's happening in the life of someone from 12 and lasting into adulthood. No? So, in stage three, interpersonal relationships are, are important. So, um, she often referred as the good boy, good girl orientation. The more that you are are obedient or agree or conform, the more that you become good or good boy or good girl. No? So this stage, children who are by now usually entering their teens see morality as more than simple deals. And the more, if I do this good thing, then if I obey you, then eventually I'll have a reward. But I do not follow, or what I do is wrong, then I'll be punished. So very simple deals. Now that's what morality is by this time. So a stage of moral development is focused on living up to social expectations and roles. There's an emphasis on conformity, being nice, and behave in good ways. Good behavior means having good motives and interpersonal feelings such as love, empathy, trust, and concern for others. So, for example, when you now started to have teenagers, and you're teaching teenagers, no, um, that reward and punishment is something that you can use, no, creatively, no? So in this way, so that you can be able to win a person's attention, and thus you can teach them, no? and thus teaching the faith would be more effective. If you find a way, to use creatively um, this stage of their life wherein they see morality as simple deals, or they are into conformity. If they feel that they can be rewarded, and at the same time they can go out if they will feel that they are punished, they're being punished. So characteristics of this, teens to mid 20s, are their group influences them. So it is really important, if you're a parent, to see who your children's um, friends are. And if you are a layperson who's teaching, then that's it. You have to look at their friends, and if there's something wrong, remember, teens to mid 20s, now if there's something wrong with them, it's probably because their group influenced them, or somebody influenced them. So in stage two, you can blame it to the environment, the family who brought them up. But in stage three, it's with friends. So if you would want to help them, then you look at the friends he or she is talking to. So in the prior stage, if you want to help them, or you want to be effective in teaching them, then you look at the environment and the people that they're taking care of them. So in this stage, it's the group that influence them. So there is a conformity to values and expectation of a group. No, um, that when I was young, I became part of the Legions of Mary. So prior to that, I was not a good boy. I usually play outside, and then I was like a bully. I usually push my friends, those I play with. No? But at this time, there were legions of Mary that went to our place and then asking me to go to the parish, and then I joined them. The reason I joined is because I didn't have a lot of friends, na girls, because I was in a private school. I was a student of Don Bosco, Mandaluyong. So what happened was, when I found out that a group of girls were um, wanting me to be part of their group, I joined. No? And thus I conformed to the values and expectation of the group. No? So I started not pushing my friends, started praying the rosary, yung ganyan, because I conformed to the value expectation of that group that which I wanted to join. No? Well, of course, I joined in the wrong with the wrong motives, but still, because I wanted to continue to be part of that group, then I conform to the values. No? There's an unquestioning belief of group view, and then there can be discourage of personal responsibility, again because of the influence of the group. Okay, so stage three. So we are still talking about stage three, or synthetic conventional faith, and again it occurs during adolescence stage. Um, and yes, most people never get beyond this stage. Trust is shifted from stories to being part of a group. So in stage two, there is a big factor of the storytelling. But here in stage three, faith is now developed through groups, through being part of a group. Thus, one important thing about adolescent or teenagers is that approval is so important for them. No? So that's why they are now learning through groups. No? So you would start to see some contradictions, but questions are silenced and conformity wins. Now, for example, um, you start discovering different vices like smoking. Most of them will question if it is good or bad, but since they want to be part of that group's approval, then they would just conform to it. No? Or in with regards to the faith, it's in two ways. Now, it could be something positive, but at the same time also a setback when teenager starts questioning God's existence, and instead of finding answers, what they do is just conform. And but deep in their heart, they start questioning, because of things that they hear, or the other extreme that they become part of a group who does not believe in God, and what happens to them is because they want to conform, they adapt the same opinion as their group. So um, in this, it is important that we see God, or we bring the youth to groups that wherein they would see God as an extension of their interpersonal relationship. No? Um, because there are certain groups that would lead them astray. So hopefully their parents provide for them a home wherein it is open and they'll be able to receive guidance, be able to openly ask questions, or to friends that would be good influences to them, or to a girlfriend or boyfriend that they would not seek to conform. No? And if they would conform, it is something to good. No? So always remember this. No? So babies, more on sensory motor. Next step, more on storytelling, more on stories. They become imaginative, creative. But here in stage 3, you put them in groups wherein they will be able to grow, because they are looking for that, a group that would accept them, a family that would accept them, a relationship that would accept them. That is what they're looking for in this stage. So the best way for them to develop in their faith is really to find a nurturing group that would allow them to grow in their faith. So this is a good time for them to be involved in parish groups, um, but made aware of what activities they do as a group. Kasi sometimes, even if they're in the parish, um, that's where they get bad influences. I'm sorry to say that. No? Not because of the priest, but because of the group. No? Especially if we could not guide the group. No? There was this time that I was part of youth ministry. I was part of a youth ministry, and we were so excited to learn that there are a lot of people a lot of children that would like to join different groups. So there was an explosion of number of groups. Um, what happened was we didn't know what to do. We didn't form enough leaders. So what happened was we just picked leaders from their groups. So we open clubs, but this club only has one leader, and he or she has almost 70 members. So we just pick people from the group. And what happened was, there was an incident wherein one of the group, um, a complaint came from a parent na sinasabi nila na yun, that nakita niya na ipag-inuman yung anak niya, when he started joining this group. So we really play a big role as adults, as catechists, in developing our children in teaching our faith. No? So try to see this and apply this stages developed by psychologists, no, in order for us to be more effective. So stage 3, in the adolescent period, bring them to groups, guide the groups, because what they're looking for now is acceptance. No, and through this group, hopefully they would see God as an extension of interpersonal relationship. Okay. Now we go for number 4, ideological faith. So this is now in the high school, college, young adult. So looking for careers, mates, and mature faith, understanding base ideology. Ideological base enables them to live outside the crowd. Spiritual development comes from living out the worldview, and growth comes through development of worldview. No? So in this stage again, no, people are starting to look for their own careers, their own mates or relationship. They now are welcoming ideologies, but at the same time, there is a clear understanding now of what they believe in. And then, because of this ideological base, it enables them to live outside their current environment. Um, Sometimes here, no, spiritual development comes from living out worldview. So they, despite being bombarded with different ideologies at this time, if their faith is strongly founded, especially if they find a group on the previous stage, um, they can still grow even if they are living out the worldview. Take for example, um, me. I was I've been Bosconian since I was in grade school, but I shifted to a non-Catholic school in a secular school in college. In college, I was bombarded with different ideologies, and I know that you have the same experience. And what happened was that despite this, I still grew spiritually, and it is because I have a big involvement now with the parish and with also with a charismatic group at that time. So um, that is why I can see the difference of the ideology, and clearly I would be able to judge that what I have in my faith is good, and thus there is more development that comes. No? So even if they are living out worldviews or seek or trying out worldviews, no. So there will come now a growth, no, because of this comparison. No? So don't be afraid at this time. For example, you are leading a group, and then you have a leader that became a college student, and then at that time you would see him or her engage in other things besides um, what you do in the parish or in the school. um, do not be afraid, no? As long as you're there, as long as your guidance is there, um, let them be who they are. So in this stage, our guidance is important, but at the same time we can set them free, to decide on their own. So there's now a personal responsibility for their beliefs, unlike before, wherein they go to groups. Sometimes there's time of tension, sometimes with friends, family, and church leaders, because they are trying to search for the truth, and that is why our guidance is important. So never shut them down. No? It always happens. No? Um, that we lose our youth because we are not patient in entertaining their questions, or there will come a time that they will not be no longer be open to us, um, because they feel that they would just be rejected, or looked at wrongly, no. So we tend to judge sometimes, and thus tension occurs, no. um, Also, what they're getting, and what we're getting from them are always in gray areas, no. um, that is why, we have to be clear with them, with regards to our faith. We have to know how to answer, especially with regards to our faith. Again, we're allowing them to make decisions, and our role is to guide them, at this stage, because we want them to take that personal responsibility for their beliefs. We do not want them to just conform to a group, because what they want now at this stage is to really, really, really have their own, really, really accept their belief. No? So this is the stage wherein we let them go, but still be available to be of guidance to them. No? So it's still very important. Now, try to see, in our parishes, a leader wherein when they went to college or when they started working, we lose them. We lose them in the parish, and they start doing different vices. No? Because porket wala na dun sa group natin, we no longer offer ourselves to be around them. You see, in us as catechists, we should, we should. There's no alumni for us. There's no one graduating for us. We should take time to mga musta, to ask about them, especially if they're no longer going to the parish or to our Sunday schools. So our teaching never stops. Our teaching never stops. Our guiding, our accompaniment never stops. So, but always remember, even if they're older, we should be there to guide them, not impose anymore, uh, not tell them to what to do or what not to do, but to be a guide to them. Now let's try to differentiate synthetic versus individuate. No, so um, stage 3 usually arises in adolescence but could remain permanent stage in adults, no? Because again, some adults do not go out from this stage. No? They remain to develop or learn their faith only through groups. No? Um, in stage 4 occurs in early adulthood. Experience of world extends beyond family, school, work, and media. Ego is dominant. That is what we see on stage 3. Stage 4, burden of responsibility for own lifestyle, attitudes, and beliefs. So that you see the shifting of being dependent of family, of being dependent or extending, no, or the experience is extending, their faith experience extending from their family, school, work, and media, wherein they become dependent on this, uh, to a more owning of the responsibility of knowing their beliefs, no, on stage 4, as I have mentioned earlier. So transition occurs when contradiction between valued authority exists in context experience to lead to reflection of value. So in this case, diba, sa groups, um, they may be they will encounter contradictions um, between valued authority, but again, it would lead them to a reflection of values. So, for example, when they leave home, or when they go away, or when they have fights with their family, when there's certain tensions, it is led to them reflecting about it. So shift from dependence on others' spiritual belief to development of your own. That's on stage 4. Restless with outlook and self-image, existential anxiety sets. No? So there is the questioning of their purpose, existence. No? They start questioning God. No, at this stage 4. And then transition occurs when critical reflection on identity and hears inner voices. So that transition occurs, when they start losing their self, um, from being in a group to deciding on their own. You would see that transition, when there's a critical reflection on identity. So it's both extremes. It could be in a good extreme wherein they find that their identity is that they're the children of God, or totally confused. Yeah? Here's inner voice with regards to hearing God in their prayers to the point of hearing themselves, which is when yourself guides you, you are misguided. No? So that is why we look for Christ to guide us. No? So we cannot guide our own self. No? So cannot direct ourselves or lead ourselves to the good by ourselves. No? Um, we would need God. No? We would need God's grace for that. Okay, so now we go to stage 5, conjunctive faith. So rare for people to reach this stage before midlife, late 30s. It is very rare. Um, there's this inter-individuative self, and there's a realization on the limits of logic and the need for multiple interpretations of reality. So at this time, it's this transcendence from only knowing your belief, trying to formulate that to a point now wherein you'll be able to distinguish yourself from others, or to multiple interpretations of what you believe in. So, for example, you are able to identify you being Christian to other sects. Yep. So embrace polarities in life and accept paradoxes. So this is basically being more responsible, being really in tune with your faith, that you are able to accept even those who are against your belief. So this is this stage. You see the mystery in life and accept many things, even the unknown. No, I it is this is really very significant. I think I'm in this stage now, but I have realized that I only figured this out maybe 2 years ago when I was turning 40. Being able to really accept even things that are being questioned before, or finding some realities or some truths to certain things. You know, I've been working here in the Bosco School of Theology together with Father Francis, and one of the beautiful things that I learned from Father Francis is this. He is definitely beyond the conjunctive faith. Um, I hear him talk about the Big Bang Theory, about the evolution, and his inputs on this theologically, and I came to realize that there yes, there could be a time wherein we look into the sciences and we will not be confused if ever we engage or indulge in scientific findings and reasonings, and will not be offended if if the findings seem something against our faith. No, thus we will continue to search for truth, um, and accept what they see, but at the same time really study it well. No? So for example, with evolution, no, I attended one of Father Francis' class, and truly, I was really overwhelmed and amazed, in how he explained, in scientific terms, these things. No? So if you're interested, maybe you could study more about your faith beyond Evangelium. Maybe take up a master's in pastoral ministry in MPM, to further really deepen your faith and understanding. Okay, so see mystery in life and accepts many things that are unknown. Return to sacred stories and symbols, but without a particular theological box or perspective. No, that ability. Realize the truth to be found in the previous two stages, even in the most imaginative, creative ways. No, you will now see and realize the truth that you once questioned, no, in stage 4. We now see it more clearly. Take for example, in the Bible and the different things that were in the Torah that are so amazing. When I was a kid, I really loved reading these stories, and then come a time that I started questioning it. How can this happen? How can Jesus become bread? Or how did Moses part the sea? Or different questions. No? Um, but when you reach this, no, you come to realize, no, the context of everything, because of your further studying. Now that you've established your personal belief, now you are now ready to be able to look into other beliefs or other contradictions and be able to grow, no, because of you continuing to study. So um, in all those questions that I set, no, I've learned all their answers, no, and it's because of the deepening of my faith, no, because I chose to continue to study and learn. So I challenge all of you as well. Um, Conflict from previous stages resolved with a complex understanding of a multidimensional interdependent truth which cannot be explained by any particular statement. No? So any conflicts before of truth, now you are able to answer very well. For example, there was a time that I really tried to study the Trinity, and I ended up not totally understanding it, and I totally accept it. No? So sometimes there will come a time wherein you will be able to resolve complex understandings such as the Trinity, and be able to accept it. So that's it, and it is in this stage. Emphasis more on community than individual needs. Uh, Fowler found only 1 in 6 people interviewed that reached this stage. So it's really seldom that people reach this stage of maturity in their faith development. Okay. So people usually enter stage 5 around age 35 or 40, but could happen earlier, later, or never. So we realize absolute answer cannot be found and start to trust the mystery, wherein we just accept the faith. Like I told you, when I was trying to study the Trinity, trying to find the best way to explain it because I am a teacher. But in the end, it really deepened my understanding and my faith because I accepted it, even if it was confusing. So accept new views, have higher level of relationship, like what I told you. with different studies about evolution, the Big Bang Theory introduced to me by Father Francis. Um, I started learning more on how to connect these things theologically as well. So it begins a total surrender to the divine. So this is the stage 5. No? So I hope most of us are in this stage. No? If not, no, um, then do not fret. You will go there as long as we seek understanding of our faith. God will introduce Himself to us. Stage 6 is now the universalizing faith. It's also referred to as enlightenment. God grounded self. No? So few people reach this stage. No? Life focus on service to others, complete understanding and acceptance of reality, absence of fear of the unknown or doubt, characterized by a sacrificial life in the transformation of humankind, devoted to overcoming division, oppression, and violence. So we know such people like the founder, Don Bosco. Don Bosco, St. John Bosco is truly an enlightened man. He will leave himself to others, totally understand, never, there's this absence of fear of the unknown or doubt with Don Bosco. Then also there's more, no? Maybe to the different congregations there, religious congregations with your regards to your founder, you would see this characteristic, no? Being able to be totally enlightened. No? Um, Probably I'm not in this stage yet, but I do dream that one day I will be able to fully surrender myself, but at the same time also fully surrender myself in the service of others. No? So it's a good goal to achieve or try to achieve. So maybe as catechists, we can also target this for our children to reach this stage 6 of universalizing our faith. So here again is the different stages of faith. So stage 1 is the intuitive projective faith. Stage 2 is the mythic literal faith. Stage 3 is a synthetic conventional faith. Stage 4 is the individual reflective faith. Stage 5 is a conjunctive faith, or stage 6 is exceedingly rare. And again, that is our universalizing faith. Yeah. So, um, so from lower to higher, from ignorance to living with the paradox, from just receiving awareness, willing to listen to the point of internalizing values and characterization. So you will see, that that there is really from a lower to higher, development, on these different stages, cognitive, affective, behavioral, and volitional, which we have all discussed with regards to different theories of development. Okay, so here the ministry, the church, and the stages of power. So you would see from here, you would see the different stages, the 6 different stages. No? So from being powerless, but recognizing God, stage 1, stage 2, power by association, wherein we start being in groups. Stage 3 is now being our own self, the productive life. And then stage 4 is wherein we start to believe in our personal belief. Stage 5 is when we try to look at the others, no? A journey outward, no? Now that we have learned the power of our own purpose. No? And lastly is the power by wisdom, or the universalizing faith, or the life of love, wherein we, we give ourselves to God and to others. No? Now let's look at some criticisms of Fowler's stages. Now, stage one, there is this possible exploitation of child's imagination for evil purposes. No? That's one critic given to the Fowler stages. No? Could have contradictions between valued authority sources, Catholic Church changing the Mass from Latin to English, or no longer require abstinence from meat on Friday. So these different contradictions between valued sources, no, can really confuse uh, our children, or and that is one of the biggest contradictions, no, or criticism of Fowler stages. Also, one cannot advance or skip stages, no, move from stage 2 to 5. No? That's one thing that is being criticized of Fowler, because sometimes it can happen. You have a long tree wherein you were dependent with the group, and then jump to fifth wherein you start to um, be more open to other beliefs. You become, or go up immediately to stage 6 of being enlightened. And then stage 6 is nearly impossible to attain, because that universalizing faith is quite difficult, no? And you would see that's why there's only few saints. Maybe that could be one of the answers. But um, psychology would see that stage 6 is nearly impossible to attain. No? Um, And then the study was not published in a journal, so was not peer reviewed. So no other people were able to really study the different stages of Fowler with regards to faith development. Yeah. So again, this is the 6 stages. Stage 1 is the intuitive projective faith, early childhood images and stories. And then stage 2 is the mythic literal faith, childhood limited to concrete thinking. Synthetic conventional faith is the commitment to church and leaders. Stage 4 is the individual reflective faith, focus upon personal faith. Stage 5 is a conjunctive faith, awareness of perspective. And lastly is the universalizing faith, or the transforming process. Okay, so that ends our discussion on Fowler's theory of faith development. So you will have a final assignment that I will be giving you. Um, and the deadline will be next week, December 19th. Thank you again. So I do hope to see you in person one day. I also hope that um, I'll be able to to treat you. Hindi, joke lang. I will not treat all of you. Ang dami nyo. Uh, but really see you. And I pray for your families and all your plans. Also, please do continue to get in touch with me if you have any questions or anything beyond our subject. I'll be happy to answer them for you. I do hope that we didn't have any synchronous class, but um, I hope that we can still interact if needed. If there's any questions about any of the discussions I sent out, so please do feel free to message me or contact me in my phone number. So again, faith development is important in order for us to understand and understand how we can be more effective and efficient in helping our or teaching those who we are catechizing. So God bless you and your family. Have a fruitful Advent and Merry Christmas.